Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Drums and Drams. My name's Cameron, and today we've got another Scotch Sunday whiskey review. In today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at the 2023 release of Bunnahabhain's 12-year-old cask strength single malt Scotch. And for me, this is kind of a new adventure. This is a distillery that I am mostly unfamiliar with, having only tasted their standard 12-year-old expression at a lower ABV. And product-wise, I've never had their cask strength, so this is an entirely new experience for me, tasting cask strength Bunnahabhain. Again, we're going to focus on the 2023 release in this review. It's one that I don't really know much about. Over the years, I've heard great things said about these cask strength releases, but as far as the 2023, I didn't pick this up because I heard something special or particular about it. It's just one of those things that came across my feed on a secondary site, because here in Ohio, I'm not sure if we actually get the cask strength versions. If we do, I've never seen it on a shelf before. So when I saw this come across my feed, I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and pick this up. The price seemed very reasonable. I don't know if it really was an upcharge. I may have been right around SRP, but the guy that I bought it from, his name was Mike, and Mike told me that if I did plan on reviewing this bottle on the channel, the 2023, that I absolutely had to compare it to the 2022 release, because I guess that one has been getting tons and tons of hype since it was released. So he was kind enough to send along a sample of the 2022 to compare it to this 2023, and we're going to do that in this review today. So first, we are going to start with the more recent release, but then afterwards, we're going to go back and do this side-by-side comparison and just kind of see, what the 2022 hype is all about, and having not really heard anything about the 2023, whether or not it lives up to that hype. Yada, 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 all that good stuff. You can see in front of me in these two glasses the color difference between these two. The 2023 a little bit lighter, and the 2022 has, this kind of darker, a little bit more of a red tint to that. So you can see the sherry casks are very active in that 2022. We're going to put it off to the side. We'll come back to that in just a second. Now, these products are non-chill filtered. They are natural color. Again, obviously cask strength. The proof, or ABV of this 2023 release is 60.1%, and the 2022 is 3.5% lower at 56.6. Again, the use of sherry casks here is kind of a feature. They talk about that on the bottle. I mean, the front of the bottle says sherried right on the front. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this 2023 release. I'm pretty excited for this. Let's see what we get on the nose. Here we go. Wow. All right, so this is a very intense whiskey on the nose. 12-year-old Scotch at cask strength. This is not super old, so you do expect this to show a little bit of a youthful presence, and it has that intensity on the nose. This thing is definitely coming across with a lot of floral elements, a ton, and I mean a ton, of this peppery kind of spice. And there's also a lot of nuttiness as well. Yeah, I mean, one of the primary driving notes in here is just a big almond kind of note. There's a teeny little bit of like a creaminess to that, so you might say marzipan. Some people might kind of go like the buttercream route. A little bit of that creaminess, but mostly I would just say that this is almond forward. There's some honeysuckle in here to kind of go along with that floral character that I talked about. And yes, there is this little bit of a honey sweetness. Now, the sherry influence on here, besides that almond note, which has to be, contributed from those sherry casks, I would say that it's a little bit of a lighter influence, and you can see that in the color, right? Yeah, I mean, this is more like a golden raisin impact from the sherry. It's nothing darker. You don't get into any of those like Christmas cake notes or really, really intense, heavy, dark, dried fruits. No, it's more of just that golden raisin. I will say that this whiskey feels very lively, very fresh, sprightly. You can use a lot of words for this. Those are kind of positive words, but I do think it is kind of rough around the edges as well. It's cask strength. It's 12 years old. That's fine. But we're going to get it on the palate now and see what we get. Cheers. That is like right away gripping. Front of the palate. I'm going to try to talk through this as I salivate all over the place. Front of the palate, big tangy kind of light fruit kind of note. I mean, this is a little bit like a green apple pear territory with this biting tanginess. And I didn't really pick that up on the nose so much. The nose, again, felt more spicy, floral, nutty, light sherry. But that fresh fruit character right away is very gripping, along with a humongous white pepper spice on the front of the palate. Now, as it rolls back, we're getting into the finish now. We'll come back and catch some of those mid-palate notes in just a second, and we'll also check back in on the nose as well. But in the finish right now, super long, lingering finish. I think I'm going to say, like, even American whiskey drinkers who dabble in Scotch, who love cask strength American whiskeys, this is an interesting place to go because there's no peat, there's no smoky elements to this, and I think there are parts of this whiskey, don't get mad at me for saying this, that remind me, with regards to the drinking experience in particular, not necessarily the profile, but the drinking experience kind of reminds me of like Redbreast cask strength, and a lot of American whiskey drinkers, I think, I notice them gravitating more towards Irish than they do Scotch, and because they like the proof of American whiskey and the intensity of the drinking experience, they often go for those blue spots, those Redbreast cask strengths. And so I think this actually provides a similar drinking experience. Now, I don't need to always relate these Scotch reviews back to American whiskey and American whiskey drinkers, but that's what we have a lot of here on the channel, right? And I think for those folks looking for a Scotch with that intensity that's not going to blow them out of the water with sherry, which is kind of a weird note for American whiskey drinkers, and also peat is another thing that can really turn folks off. This is an interesting place to go. Look, I don't think this is incredible. Like, that first sip, it was very gripping. It had those like hallmark brash components of kind of a, well, I mean, not younger, not entry level, but it's just a 12-year-old cask strength Scotch. It has those hallmarks of it. It's a very high ABV for a product like this, which is cool. But it's a little rough around the edges, enjoyable nonetheless. Let's go in now for a second sip. Oh man. Second sip. Ooh. It hit me just the wrong way there. Shortbread cookies. Lots of vanilla on this second sip. So now that I can kind of get past that fruit tang on the front and that white pepper, we're getting into a lot of sweeter kind of notes, and I like that quite a bit. It's actually getting just a bit toastier on the back end as well, which is very nice. Almost like a little bit of a toasted, kind of like a toasted bread note or toasted croissant. You know, sometimes I talk about like a warmed up croissant. If you go to like a coffee shop and you have them, you know, warm up whatever baked good you get, kind of get a little bit of that here on the mid to back palate. Yeah, I think it's a solid whiskey. I don't think this is life-changing, but it's a fun one to sip. The sherry, again, is kind of lighter, a little bit more reserved, and in the background with regards to dark fruit notes, really pushing forward those almond characteristics and humongous, peppery, spicy kind of profile there. So there we go. That's the 2023. Let's move over now to the 2022 with this darker, more ruby tint to the glass. Let's see what this is all about now. Here we go. Oh God. Okay. So yeah, this smells like, I don't know if I want to say sherry bomb. It's not quite like some of the Glenallachie single casks you might, you know, pick up, or Glendronachs or whatever. But this is a lot more sherry on the nose. It's more of like that syrupy, heavy, darker, you know, dry fruit kind of sherry. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, this smells very, very good. I think the hype is warranted. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say about this. So many dark fruit notes going on here. I'm actually picking up like some blueberry, which is not a note that I call very often, if ever. Yeah, this is just straight up like blueberries and syrupy sherry. The heat on this is very much in the background too. I mean, it's only 3.5% less at 56.6. This does not have any indication for me on the nose that this is a cask strength Scotch. I mean, it feels well integrated. It's just a very nice, like, holistic kind of experience on the nose. That could just be coming off the 60.1% of the 2023. Yes, that could be the case, but smells great, smells well integrated. Is it complex or is it a one-trick pony? I think there's a decent bit of complexity here, even for the age. So let's go to the palate now. Here we go. Oh, I got to get a bottle of this. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Wow. It's like a delayed spice on the palate too, which I love. I love when some of these big sherried scotches hit the front of your palate and they just kind of glide over your tongue. And then the ramp up with kind of the, in this case, this is more of a cinnamon spice from those casks. Like this is a darker, richer kind of spice experience. That starts to ramp up on the middle of the tongue. So you're just first met with like beautiful sweetness and enveloping dark fruits, and that rollback onto the mid palate, getting into the finish, it just propels itself. Oh, this is very good scotch. And like for being a 12-year-old cask strength, which is again not particularly old, it's from Bunnahabhain. This is not something that gets flipped for a bunch of, a bunch of dollars or whatever you want to say. This is not something that gets flipped for an exorbitant markup on the secondary market. Relatively findable, it seems like. This 2022, this is a real treat. Yeah, and I think, with regards to the sherry impact on this 2022, it doesn't really get too chocolatey for me or too funky or barbecue or savory. Some different, sherry cask influences, like with different brands and stuff, like different sherried expressions. That's what I want to say. Oftentimes they'll have these other facets, these more savory components or whatever. This to me feels so fruit forward and so fruit driven all the way through, nose, palate, finish, and everything. I like that aspect to it. I like that this is very direct with regards to how fruity it is, and it's not, it's not clouded by some of these other notes. Some people might say complex. In this case, I think it could cloud just how fruit forward this whiskey is. All right, one more sip. Here we go. I'm taking big sips of this one because it's so good. Wow, that is phenomenal. I don't even know what else to say about it. So, at the end of the day, 2023 Bunnahabhain cask strength, solid, leaves a little to be desired. I think, folks. I think across the board, 9 times out of 10, everybody prefers some more of these heavy-handed sherry cask influenced whiskeys. I can't even talk. It's just so good. I'm in that category too, right? I love big, dark influenced sherry cask type scotches. So this 2023 being a little on the lighter side, the more floral side, I think it's fine, but I could find this kind of an experience with the flavor profile maybe in a little bit of a better way, like somewhere else. I think other scotches you might be able to find more of that spicy floral thing. The nuttiness is certainly unique on the 2023, I think. The fact that it is so almond forward and just almond driven all the way through. But I'm not so big into whiskeys that have a lot of that kind of nutty component to them. Whether it's American whiskey with peanuts or Scotch with almonds, it's all kind of the same to me. I think it's a time and place situation as opposed to something that I really gravitate towards. So all that to say, 2023, solid, very good whiskey if you want to drink at cask strength. But the 2022, if you happen to find one of these still hanging around on a shelf, or you get the opportunity to trade for it or buy it on secondary for a reasonable price, I would say absolutely go for the 2022, especially if you like sherry. It's a very special whiskey. So thank you, Mike, for this sample and for selling me this bottle of the 2023. Cheers, everybody. Let me know what you think of these 2 releases if you've had the chance to try them in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out the Patreon for some more bonus content and more Scotch content as always on the way. Trying to, balance things out. Not too much American whiskey on the channel, just a little Scotch to add something extra there, a little extra dimension. So here we go. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you next time here on Drums and Drams.